Inwards, outward. Inwards, outward.
Next, I hand over the mic and the chalk to Paul Soliday, and then on deck is Amelia.
That's how I usually sign my checks.
Can't see.
Okay,
Now we know how to voice. We could never counterfeit it.
What language is that?
I should have been a doctor, right? Nature, as we all know, can be wild, reclaiming what is hers through tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, flash floods, and the like. Even on a micro level, her emissaries do her work. Such was the instance when a beaver made its home in my pond. Live and let live, I thought. But before I knew it, almost 100 trees had disappeared from my property, including 2 weeping cherry trees and a weeping willow I had planted in remembrance of my mom. The Beaver's Dam was also flooding my property. This agent of change and I battled each other. I would take apart its dam during the day. It would rebuild it every night. This went on for weeks until professional help remedied the situation once and for all. This certainly was an example of a wild creature run amok. But when people run amok, they show their wild animal reptilian side, and it ain't pretty, especially when they're invited to do so. Come to Washington on January 6th. It will be wild. That was the tweet of the defeated President of the United States. To me, the bedlam that ensued was more frightening than nature unleashed and more damaging to my psyche. As part of a religious minority, I always thought I was fortunate to be born in the land of the free and the home of the brave. But all of a sudden, I didn't recognize this country. What was being portrayed on TV was a reality show filled with hate, bigotry, and violence. I no longer felt safe. Those wild animals who stormed the Capitol left their humanity in the gutter. They battered those in their way, both physically and emotionally. And some of the heroic police paid the ultimate price. More than 100 of them were injured. And don't forget to count the grave injury to democracy. In fact, excuse me. In fact, I submit democracy is on life support. The 2024 presidential election may be the ultimate determination of whether the American experiment succeeds or becomes a curious footnote in world history. In the upcoming trials Donald Trump faces, American exceptionalism, our notion of ourselves and our country, is also weighing on those scales of justice.
Thank you, Paul. Do you have the chalk? Ah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
okay. So, before we have our next wonderful storyteller come up here, I just want to set the mood a little bit with our theme of wild, which started out as I was originally going to riff on Labor Day and have a theme around labor. Ugh, it just sounded like so wild was like the opposite of that, and I just came from this incredibly wild weekend at Omega, chanting all weekend. For it was the name of the workshop was Ecstatic Chant, and I don't know if any of you have ever chanted before with Krishna Das, and tells the same stories every single time. He always has the same stories to tell. But this time he's getting older and wiser, and he really took note of we just don't know how many breaths we have left, which made me think of the line from beloved Mary Oliver's poem. So as we wrap up summer, I leave you with this. To the wild place, to the breath, to the dank basement. Oh, oops, wait, I'm sorry, wrong. Okay, let's start over. This is the summer day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. And now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel into the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I would have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Does it tell me, what would you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Yes.
And with that, I give you the lovely Amelia.
Oh, wow. The chalk. Oh, what do we do? I do flowers. There. Flowers. Flower. Yeah. Okie dokie, artichoke. There you got it. Hi, everyone. Geez, those lights are. I'm going this way, okay? Because I want to see you too. All right. And it's great seeing all of you. It's like family every time I come here. And I don't have any family of birth, but so you guys are it, guys, Anyway, I like to tell stories about me and my life. And what came up this time is I took a journey down to St. Thomas one year, way back then. And I must have been there for about a month, and I met some lovely people. And then all right, I was asked if, somebody scored some heroin, and did I want to go with them? Now, I know how it's like the way I smoked weed, the way I ate sugar, the way I ate cheese, the way I ate food. somehow inside me said, ain't a good idea. Really. And I'm so grateful that sometimes my brain works well in my favor. Um, so I said no, thank you. And the other thing is, I was there and I got this awful sunburn. I was in agony, and um, I was invited to go sailing with some friends that were down there, and I also realized that being out on the ocean with that sunburn, not a good idea. My skin would have fried even more so. So I said, no, thank you. And they went off. And I heard later on that they pulled into, they were on the beach, and they were attacked by whoever was there and beaten up pretty badly and had to be flown to a hospital. And I realized, when you think the sunburn, oh my God, how did I do it? It's, a scourge, such a terrible thing. That saved my life. Because had I not had that, I would have gone on the boat and I would have been with them. And I'm grateful. I never saw them after that. So I have no idea of how that evolved, but I'm glad I didn't go. And I see often that my life is protected in so many ways. You get something, it feels like a terrible thing, and it ends up to be the best thing that could ever happen. So, a good thing. I pass the chalk on to whomever.
So, one of the lines I read from that Mary Oliver poem really caught me. So, Deb, you must add some polka dot for you.
They get socks.
Those polka dot socks.
They get polka dot socks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Sonia, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you you were in deck. So surprise, you're in deck. And on deck is Ted Phelps.
All right.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to write something and then I'll explain it. Mesra. Okay. When I heard the iWow prompt, wild, I knew what I wanted to write. That was a week ago, and I sent it to the Berkshire Edge. They accepted it, but little did I know, ... I wrote the Edge to withdraw my piece, but I'll share it with you. Days and Nights at Burning Man by Mesmera. I received my playa name from Rhythm Wave tribe mates who heard I had studied hypnotism with our Susan Soloway, by the way. Okay, from the Burning Man Manifesto. Join a group of friends as they head to one of the largest social experiments in the world. 50,000 people meet in the desert to create a temporary city of art. The rules are simple. No commerce. Bring what you need to survive. Leave no trace. Participants only. No spectators. Take a journey into a world of art, music, sexuality, and fire. Lots of fire. Radical self-expression, radical self-reliance. Originally, Burning Man sounded, well, intensely challenging. Mad Max meets Timothy Leary, a feat of physical endurance. I needed something to jolt me from my ever-expanding comfort zone. I spent 5 exhilarating seasons at Burning Man. It's a haul. You fly to Reno, where you pick up a rental car and use bikes. The last town is Gerlach. Then you drive the 3 hours plus in the Nevada desert to Black Rock City. Yes, the temperatures rise to 3 digits. There are hours and hours in the blazing sun, sand everywhere, of course, and sandstorms, for which we don goggles and wear burqas over our bikinis. We have to bring our own food and cooking utensils, at least a gallon of water per person per day, nearly 10 gallons, and whatever else we might need. The last time I went, the population of Burning Man had topped at 70,000. I am older, have a hip replacement, and the extra 20,000 burners make biking on the playa a tense affair with near collisions. Another thing, too, there's a felt hierarchy. In the distant sky, the rich and famous fly down in private jets and stay in partitioned areas. This is a very different vibe, especially when you consider that Burning Man began when a few friends met on Baker Beach in San Francisco and burned a 9-foot effigy to the man in 1986. Now the man is us, a neon man grown to 40 feet and visible from anywhere on the playa. Nearby, a 20-foot twisted wire woman with arched head and back confronts him. I think about Burning Man every August. That's when I start collecting my stuff. Camping gear, a headlamp, my portable shower, old slips, tutus found in thrift shops. Yes, costuming is very important. Self-expression runs rampant. I never realized so many men like to wear skirts, often with nothing underneath. I packed several dozen special bandanas placed in an ice chest, then worn around neck and wrists to cool off, and which I give people. One of the wonders of Burning Man is its potlatch philosophy. People arrive with gifts to offer the community. A favorite is Bacon Camp, where people serve bacon all day. There's Margarita Camp and more esoteric specialties. I once walked into a spanking camp and walked out quickly. I love Ping Pong Camp, run by a group of Australians who at night ignite the net, and we play nearly blinded by the flames. I remember a memorable wedding gown giveaway, and dozens of us strolled down the aisles of the playa. Nearby, a naked men's bike ride of hundreds commences. Slowly, the sun drops into the horizon slit. A white ball plunked into its pocket, the pink, purpling sky. The heart of the playa begins to pound, throbbing like a heartache, a hard-on. We slip into our Fredericks of Hollywood lingerie with rabbit fur, fuzzy tails, high-heel platform boots, headlights strapped to foreheads. We pedal shakily on our bikes. A black velvet sheet covers us. One of my strangest experiences was taking an elevator with perhaps a dozen people at a time down underground into the playa. I can feel the motion of the elevator. When I arrive, there's a bar, of course. There are bars everywhere, where I am greeted with a fresh mint mojito. But I can't wrap my mind around where I am. The floor is sandy, and a group waits to go up in the elevator. Later, I return, sneak around back, and discover that the elevator is on tracks moving horizontally, not vertically. One year, the theme was Metropolis, and an artist created a subway where you sit on rattling subway seats look out subway windows as video strips create the passing landscape. A miniature Chrysler building, 2 stories high, stands nearby. I find an old-fashioned telephone booth. I pick up the receiver. There's a dial tone. August 2013 was my last time at Burning Man, 10 years ago. My father had died several weeks earlier. There was a funeral, I sat Shiva, and then didn't know what to do with myself. I had already purchased my tickets, so off I went to see the man. The Temple of Holiness, and it's spelled W-H-O-L-L-Y, yes. The Temple of Holiness awaited me. It's an architectural miracle of tongue and groove, a pyramid with a 2001 monolith-like center. There are grottos to crawl into, paper and pencil provided. I find a private nest and begin to write to my father, about my father, who was a survivor of Auschwitz. And I leave countless slips of paper with his many names, Benjamin, Benyek, Benny, Bensi, Daddy, and watch them float up in smoke and then return to Earth. Today, tens of thousands of people are stuck at Black Rock City. Deep, thick mud everywhere, food and drink running short, the porta toilets overflowing, and no one can empty them. As one burner wrote, I get the feeling God doesn't like paganism. Prayers that everyone returns to the default world, as it's called, their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. I knew there was a reason I picked this theme. All right. Next we have Ted Phelps, and on deck, Susan Talbot.
I do. Talk to my future artist.
Yeah, not a good job. Gotta keep these flat. That doesn't work either.
I've been a little unstable for about 6 weeks. See how this goes. I wrote this for this. Wild or what? The mayor woke before dawn. Phone call. Chief of staff. Sir, you have to get up. Quickly. Dress strong. Strong? What's up, Charlie? Don't dress office. Boots and jeans and your war zone jacket like the hurricanes. Never mind. Just look out front. You'll get it. There's an attack. I can't say. I'm trying to get there. The mayor went to the front of the mayor mansion at the 12 o'clock position in the cul-de-sac. Through the high-paned arched windows, far down the sloping grass lawn, in the lightening day, movement, brown, fuzzy. She couldn't tell. What's going on, Briggs? She whispered. Those aren't cars. Is that camo? Is it the prison break again? I don't see the police. Where are my guards? Briggs, you there? Sir, cut the sir shit, Charlie. I'm concerned. I'm afraid. They're coming up the lawn. There's a lion, right? A tribe of them, and then the gorillas. Brenda, you gotta get to your safe place. What the hell? What's going on? Where are my guards? Gone, ma'am. The animals, the zoo walls, they breached it in the night. And they want me. They know me. They know what a mayor. Holy shit. The mayor shrieked so bad the phone went off. Sure, even the prior mayors, who had all been ex-military or ex-police, would have also verbally expressed themselves at this unique moment and would have gone for the gun in the safe room. This mayor, the first ex-artist, ex-film star, slight of frame, still in yoga shape, she didn't go for a gun, she shrieked. Most would at the sight. Pride of lions pacing paw by paw up the lawn. The famous Grandyville lions, groomed, beautiful, genetically African, born and bred at City Zoo, used to reporters, cameras, good with kids, fed a modified paleo diet, yoga, massage, and meditation, famously teachers of meditation. Their last 10-day retreat had just ended. She watched, mouth wide and silent as the pride arranged itself in a circle around the gardens at the entrance and lay down, all but one, the large, the male. Coming up behind them, the gorillas. Faces like men expressed emotions, mostly menacing, Brenda thought. She saw then, far in the back, jumping up and down between two families of primates, a human. They were waving, wending forward, nodding to the side at the primates, patting them on the shoulder. It was the chief of staff. Her phone rang again. Brenda, sir, look, you've got to come out on the portico or whatever, the balcony, and address these guys. Guys? Well, at least the lions and the baboons or whatever. Then the dawn rose sky, filled with large winged birds, dropped down each onto a back of a lion where they pecked at the ear as if whispering. Lion eyes were closing. She cranked open a window, low rumble, grunts and snoots, but quiet. Oh, the smell. The primates surrounded the lions on all sides. Protection. Charlie, you gotta get in here. She was all but sliding down the long staircase now to open the door. She didn't see him being lifted onto the shoulders of the primate. Now at the back row, the pride of lions. He was laughing. Their grip tickled. Then he quieted. He sat waiting. Phone dropped on the ground, being taken up by a child, a gorilla child. Brenda opened the door, stood there. The smells. She sniffed. Like a dog looking this way and that. Hands behind her, still in sleepwear, flowing in the breeze. She drew in the air deep. Her nostrils widened, her head went back, her eyes closed. Breathed in again, deeper than ever in her life. The wind coming across the hair of the lions, the feathers of birds, flowering trees and the garden. She held it in a long moment. And when she let it out, all the gathered beings also let it out. One big whoosh like a waterfall. Hello, her mouth called out. Her hands went up. Good morning, dears. A million grunts and shrieks, and the primates, the lions, and each rainbow-winged being on its back, and especially the lion gurus standing a few feet from her. They all together, well, hard to say it otherwise, laughed.
Thank you, Ted. Next we have Susan, and on deck is Larry.
It will all make sense in this story. The sun in the morning and the moon at night. Several years ago, my good friend RT invited me to a ceremony at her home. wild noises. The evening gathering was part of her recently completed vision quest. Not knowing really what a vision quest was, I attended with great curiosity. This friend was always doing brave and interesting things. She told us in deep detail that her vision quest meant living on her own in the woods with no food and just a tarp to sleep on. And how amazing, meaningful, and wonderful it was for her to connect to nature. In the hushed and reverent tones of that gathering, after she described her experience, I broke the silence by exclaiming, "I could never do that!" And I really meant it. Besides the idea of living in the woods alone for 3 days and having no food was beyond my imagination. And what about my addictions? Took food, coffee, sugar, and my iPhone. How could anyone do it? Funny thing, 1 year later, I signed up to do exactly that. August of 2015, I was one of 9 people who paid handsomely, for the experience of having no food in the woods. I had only a tent and water, no books, no distractions. We knew there was a group at a central fire in the woods near us that would be attended 24 hours a day, and we could go there if we needed help or support. For 2 weeks prior to that, I weaned myself of coffee and sugar so I didn't have headaches and withdrawal. All I had was water, a journal, and a headlamp for nighttime pee breaks. The first night, I laid down in my tent and I heard rumbles of thunder. They got louder and closer. I could not settle down. What the heck was I doing in the woods in a thunderstorm under giant pine trees that were going? I saw the headline already. Middle-aged woman crushed by falling tree while seeking peace of mind. I crawled out of my tent and went to the central fire. We were instructed not to talk, so I brought a note. I wrote the note and it said, "Is there a storm coming this way? Help, I'm afraid." Within a few minutes, I got a written reply. "Storm not coming. It's not coming this way. Nothing to be afraid of." Since the shaman who was guiding us on this was a psychic, I believed her. Thank goodness she said it's not coming. And I went to sleep. Now, dreams are very important on a vision quest. That's when a vision may come to you. Well, the first night I had a whopper. I dreamed in vivid detail that I walked out of the woods and into Great Barrington to find something to eat. I left the vision quest. I was roaming in and out, and I finally got to a hotel, and there was some food on the bar, and I was about to eat it when my vision quest brain said, "Don't eat it. You'll have broken the vision quest. Get back to your tent." In the dream, I was looking at a way to get back to my tent, desperately trying to find the woods. When I woke up in my tent, of course, I was safe and I had not escaped. And I knew then that I was going to stay and that I'd make it. In the morning, I found a beautiful spot to sit and meditate. And I thought, oh, how lovely, no interruptions. But peace of mind was not mine yet. In fact, I was agitated and unhappy. I paced around my sacred circle, back and forth. Why am I so upset? Why am I anxious? Finally, I remembered, hey, I help people with anxiety. And I sat myself down and gave myself a hypnotherapy session. Immediately, as I quieted down, I closed my eyes and I realized it was my inner child screaming at me, going, "What are we doing here in the woods? There's no people. There's no food. There's no games. You didn't tell me we were doing this." And I said, "Oh, you're right. I forgot to tell you." I had to sit down with her and make it fun. And that's what I did. She and I discussed that it was a game. And it was important to get this game and stay with the rules and enjoy it and win. And she said, "Good. That sounds like fun." And after that, I was a happy camper. She and I played with spiders and drew leaves and looked at the sun and wondered how many thousand hours there are in a day. You're not eating, you're not shopping, you're not preparing, you're not digesting. The day was 9 million hours long. And then I went to sleep again. That's what I learned, by the way. Eating takes up a lot of time. On my last night, I had a lovely vision. I had a dream. And in it, an old man came to me to tell me I was safe and protected. I'm sorry, safe, and he was looking out for me. I saw this crinkly old face and crinkly old eyes, and I just loved his leathery skin. And I'm like, "Who are you?" And he said, "Chief Joe." At which point I laughed. I'm like, what guide is named Chief Joe? You know, I expected an elaborate spiritual word. Chief Joe? I wrote it down in my journal when I woke up and didn't give it another thought. In fact, I forgot all about it. Afterwards, in the reviewing the details of my experience with the shaman who guided us, I read her my dream about Chief Joe. Her response was bug-eyed and amazing. She said, "Do you know who Chief Joe is?" I said, "No." She had a picture of him on her sacred wall next to Jesus Christ. Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce tribe was this magnificent chieftain who believed in peace and cooperation with the white settlers. We all know how that turned out. He lived to really help and resettle and go to Washington several times, but eventually he was betrayed by the US government and died in jail. To close this story of my time in the wild, I'll honor Chief Joe. These are his words. "The earth is the mother of all people, and all people should have an equal right upon it. Treat all men alike, give them all the same law, give them all an even chance to live and grow. Whenever the white man treats the Indian as they treat each other, then we shall have no more wars." He died of a broken heart. But now I keep him alive in mine.
Thank you, Susan. Next up, we have Larry. On deck is Kitty.
So, you know what the American Indians called the Civil War? This is really poetry. We called it the Civil War. The American Indians called it the Brother War.
That's good, yeah.
So, I like anonymous poetry, like the kind of bedroom stalls and the bus depots, etc. So, a couple of small poems. Here's a poem by a 3-year-old. I'm short, you're tall, that's all. Here's a poem I really like. Nobody knows who wrote it. I love myself. I think I'm grand. I sit in the movies, I hold my hand. I put my arm around my waist. If I get fresh, I slap my face. Thank you for listening. Yeah. So now I need my glasses.
Use the microphone.
No, you can hear me, right? You can all hear me? Yeah. I don't want the microphone. Okay. 3 small poems, if I could find them. This one's called The One That Got Away. Oh, sweet, tender, beautiful, green-eyed Carol, the strawberry blonde Breck girl, the midnight phone calls, the summer walks through Central Park, the Picassos and Vermeers we loved, the apple pies you baked, the summer at Martha's Vineyard. Oh, sweet, tender, beautiful, green-eyed Carol, how I took you for granted with my macho ignorance until I lost you and found you months later on the steps of the Metropolitan Museum and begged for a second chance. And your sweet, tender, beautiful green eyes gently told me no. True story. Okay. Then. Who here likes winter? Raise your hand if you like winter. Who hates winter? Who hates winter? Anybody? Oh, good. There's a few of us, okay? So, winter's coming, and we get fall, but then it's winter. So, by the way, those of you who love winter, wait a few years. I wrote a poem about winter. It's called Old Man Winter. Old Man Winter, you miserable prick. Venomous vampire, sucker of blood, death's fraternal twin, cloaked in virginal white, you approach on cat's paws in majestic silence, offering your poisonous beauty to unsuspecting youth, who die in the frozen tundra of ski slopes and icy roads and mountain passes, but you don't fool me, you miserable prick, for I am spring! I will melt your filthy gray putrid mess and brighten the sky. I will kill you. The crocuses will grow. Okay. One more, and that's it. A perfect day. The sun was bright, and I was young, and you could smell the sunlit sidewalks of Madison Avenue, and 1 block west, the spring awakening of Central Park. And I was young and could still run like a deer, and time and distance were irrelevant. I could run forever. And I was young. On a Friday afternoon in May, walking north on Madison Avenue, the sun a tender force, past the casual glamour that defines Manhattan, the Picasso distortions and gilded frames, the Gucci's and Louis Vuittons, the diamonds nestled in blue velvet boxes, the Tiffany and Fabergés, the $800 shoes perched in windows like exotic birds of paradise. And walking north and south with a blind assurance of wealth, the long-legged women in slinky dresses and sculptured hair and Palm Beach tans on the arms of silver-haired men in pinstripe suits that camouflaged imperfections with masterful, magical cunning. And on every block, parked and double parked like docile dinosaurs, the black limousines with uniformed chauffeurs at the ready, waiting in the afternoon sunlight, waiting, silently waiting, and I was young. And my youth and strength and speed, me, the starving artist who lived on rice and beans and Ronzoni pasta #9, me, who could outrun anyone on the avenue without breaking a sweat, weaving, darting, plunging into this river of wealth that could buy the perfect diamond, but never my youth, my strength, my speed. And I was young on 79th Street, waiting at the light, veering east to the 5th floor walk up off York and 89th, when she emerged from the sunlight with a beautiful spotted pup. What a beautiful pup, I remarked. You want him, she asked. Yes, I said, and she handed me the leash and dissolved into the river of humanity that flowed along the avenue. And the pup and I headed home in the late afternoon sunlight, destined to share a destiny that would stretch out for years. We both knew it. It was a perfect day.
Thank you, Larry. Next up, we have Kitty, and on deck is Barbara.
Okay, wild, uncharted, without restriction or fencing, not the same as free, not feral. Wild is a state of being, unencumbered with memories of an opposite. It grows without human aid or cause. It is uninhabited, not cultivated. It is uncontrolled and unruly. It can be fantastic, no basis in known or surmised fact, as a wild guess. Often marked by turbulent agitation, stormy. 10 years ago, when I lived alone on the side of one of our mountains, an old mountain, just below the Appalachian Trail, half a mile up a private dirt driveway in the middle of the forest. One January night, a storm of loud, strong wind and drifting snow came in after midnight. After all is said, hope resides in the certainty of change. I wrote this the next morning when the taste and smell of hope were still in the air. I sit up in bed. Now is bright snow, a full moon and 4 degrees with wind, and the cold is a weight pressing on the house. My temple bell on the porch rings, small and faint, its wind fin spinning and spinning and spinning. This night has noise, a dull, low hum, which groans, the tone rising as vibration intensifies, and wind splits through the trees, cracking, tearing, squeaking. Last night, the wind and pellets of ice and snow on the windows woke me at 3 a.m. Then snow, soft if still, needles when blown this hard. This night, there is an emptiness full of wind, a space full of sound. Breathless, now I lie in bed, filled with intense joy, excitement, hope, and some fear. Small fear. Hope and joy are bigger. God is very near. God is here now in this loud, wild wind. I could run away with him right now.
Thank you. Next we have Barbara, and after that we have Jeannie.
Hi, everyone. Is it your first one? It is my first one. And so my name is Barbara, and I always sign my emails XOXO, and my phone has decided to transpose that to Coco. So I have taken the name Coco because it's more fun, it's lighter, it's happier, and it's not 1957. May 6th, 2023. The New York Times app on my phone updates every 2 minutes with temptation. Today, they are invitations to watch the coronation of King Charles III. This pomp does not sit well with me, and yet I am drawn like moth to flame. What is it, I ask myself, that keeps me riveted, engaged with this sugar rush? I look at the king's dull face, lined and serious and gray like his hair, and I grimace as I write his title. But he is the one who appears pained. Certainly he is hunched. Could it be the weight of ermine on his shoulders and the long train it leaves as homage to his new station? Maybe it's the royal scepter of mercy and equity carried in his left hand, while the sovereign's orb is held in his right. Perhaps it's the heaviness of the crown itself and the responsibility that comes with it. There is no celebration in this jewel-encrusted moment. I bet you a string of royal sapphires that King Charles can't wait to fall into bed tonight. I watch and wonder if walking down the aisle at Westminster Abbey brings memories of Diana. But this is unlikely because the king felt no guilt in his treatment and humiliation of his princess. I gaze at Queen Camilla, and I know the world is thinking of Diana too, 26 years ago, last week. The compassionate part of me, the side that is ruled by love, looks at this king and his biography. I see a boy born into the coldness of royalty, where stone castles isolate, putting family members on unreachable pedestals, separating them from each other and the world. I see a boy shipped off to Eton, left to meet impossible expectations, dictated by a stern headmaster as unyielding as a set of cardinal rules. For a moment, I feel his wounds. He needed a mother, not a queen, a bosom, not a room full of attendants that fawned and sang him lullabies. This young man was starved for love until he found it, not with the woman the world fell in love with, but a woman who he had known for ages. They held a torch, a longing, a wild flame they could not squash. I have felt that wild too. And now I feel slightly faint. Must be the coronavirus I've been struggling with for a week. The irony makes me laugh. I stop drinking from my well of forgiveness and peel myself away from the coronation. I move to an article about AI killing humanity. I feel about artificial intelligence the same way I feel about artificial sugar. It's toxic. I know that this is true. I experimented with ChatGPT and requested a poem about a tick. In 30 seconds, AI spit one out, and damn, it was good. Then I requested a poem about a tick in the style of Mary Oliver, and it was her voice, her cadence, her everything. But it wasn't her, and it broke my heart. I opt out of learning about the grandfather of AI, a scientist at Google who lives in Toronto. He has failed. He's removing himself from the world he created, a world he now calls dangerous, a world where he has also been crowned king. I'm done with the news. Another mass shooting, 5 horses dead at Churchill Downs. Still, there's plenty of pomp in the stands where women wear fancy hats like princesses at Ascot. I hop over to Instagram. Photos of the good life populate my screen and feel impossibly sweet, like Splenda. Then something beautiful and real catches my eye. It is my friend Jonelle wearing her crown like Queen Aphrodite. Her work for Indigenous rights, land rights, MMIW, and Native storytelling are worthy of the headpiece, meticulous beadwork made by the hands of her sister, a native of Minnesota. I admire the design, an explosion of vibrant color, a bouquet of beauty and sunshine and love. It makes me think of life and connection and kin, then kinship, which leads me to humanity, which triggers thoughts about AI and kings who wear ermine on their shoulders like dead weight.
Thank you. Please come back again. Since you mentioned the Mary Oliver, who was it when I started to read my Mary Oliver poem before, I accidentally started reading on the other side of the piece of paper, which was the poem that I wrote, and I think Mary Oliver would turn over my poem to her. And this is just so I've shared that I haven't really been writing at all. And when I was at Omega this weekend, I was doing my morning pages, my artist grade 3 pages that I do. And when I do them, I never have creative thoughts. I use them, these are like all the people, places, and things that I'm pissed off at the world. And I get that out of it. But lo and behold, when I was doing my morning pages, a little bit of a poem came to me. So you're going to get just a snippet of it tonight. To the wild place, to the breath, to the dank basement, returning to the thoughts of naked women pressing fingernails into flesh, to the tribal drums of Guatemala where I danced for 8 days on Lake Antillean, blindfolded. This after I flipped the table on my career of 20 years, went bankrupt, belly up, wailed enough tears to fill the volcanic well of the Lake Antillean. I cried, I returned to the howl, I returned to words, each one a gritty, dirty pearl. I didn't care, I strung them anyway. The bead and beat of a tender, early, middle-aged, soon to be divorced, but didn't know it heart. There you go. All right, and next up we have Jeannie.
Well, sorry, Millie, I can't see you at all. You can right through there. So I kind of got inspired today to do this song. My really good friend Dan Byrne wrote this. It's called Soul. And like the concept of wild and soul really fit together in my mind. So let's see if I can find this. Dark with a marker, you gotta have a lady's pen. When you tell a good joke and somebody laughs, you gotta hear it over again. When you give someone a present, is it just to make them happy or just to keep them at bay? This is your part. Are you gonna follow your soul? Are you gonna follow your soul? Try it. Are you gonna follow your soul? Or just the style of the day? Or just the style of the day? Sort of got it? Win a penny, lose a penny, here's a penny, penny, penny. Penny gonna come and go. How many years will you sit there waiting for the wind to change how it blows? Do the skeletons in your closet all got 20 pairs of shoes to choose from, baby? Are you gonna follow your soul? Try it. Are you gonna follow your soul? Yeah. Are you gonna follow your soul? Or just the style of the day? Or just the style of the day? Sounds so good to say. There are changes coming down between you and I. Lions gotta roar, monkeys gotta bark, birds gotta sing, fish gotta fry. It's just a question, I ain't necessarily leaning either way. I gotta follow your soul. I gotta follow your soul. I gotta follow your soul. Or just the style of the day. Or just the style of the day. Then there are changes coming from the north. Oh man, winter's gonna blow us off the porch and back inside. Every time I go downtown, I see something beautiful behind glass. All the money in the world can't buy back the day of the past. I hear you've been crying. I wanna tell you that it's okay. Are you gonna follow your soul? Here you go. Are you gonna follow your soul? Are you gonna follow your soul? Or just the style of the day? Or just the style of the day? One more time. Are you gonna follow your soul? Are you gonna follow your soul? Are you gonna follow your soul? Or just the style of the day? Or just the style of the day?
Thank you, my roadie. Oh my God. Is your arm tired?
Oh, not at all. I hope nobody else needs it though.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Andreas. Okay, next we have Ronnie, and then on deck for our final performance, unless anybody else would like to come forward, we have Steve.
So a couple of weeks ago, I realized that with my schedule at Tanglewood, I was going to miss the Georgia O'Keeffe show at MoMA. And then I decided I had a birthday coming up. I was going to give myself a birthday present. So I planned to go down on Wednesday the 9th and got to the train station. And the hardest thing about the whole trip, I have to say, was getting my ticket out of that darned machine. And when I got to Grand Central, I walked to 53rd Street. That is 13 blocks, 11 short ones and 2 long ones. And with a leg I was having difficulty with, that was a lot. Anyway, the Georgia O'Keeffe exhibit was marvelous. And I took myself to lunch for Cafe 2 and decided I didn't care how much it cost. I budgeted $100, and if I spent it all, that was fine. And if I came back with some, that would be better. The exhibit was marvelous. Most of it was work from 1917 to 1919, a lot of which I'd never seen at all. And I got home in time to go to church supper. And at church supper, I was talking about it and showing people the photographs that I'd taken of some of the paintings. And I then said, but because I'd put myself on a tight budget, I didn't buy the catalogue. So a couple of days later, the director of Lennox Housing called me and she said, Ronnie, someone's just dropped a package off for you. And I went down to pick it up and she said, this is a short, dark-haired woman, and she was really excited to be giving you whatever it was. And I got to my apartment, and here was the most beautifully wrapped package. And it was the Georgia O'Keeffe catalogue. And there was a card in it that said, essentially, how much I'd meant in this person's life. And it was signed, a secret admirer. So I knew from the handwriting that it was going to be a senior, because the writing was kind of all over the place. And so I asked different people, and I talked to the friend that matched the description of who had delivered it in the first place, and thought she was in cahoots with other friends in order to make this gift. And nobody. I still have no idea who this gift is from, but boy, won't it be wild when I find out.
Amazing. I saw that exhibition. It was really great. Yeah. All right, and for our final performance of the evening, we have Steve.
Yeah.
Oh.
So here's me. This is my sheet music from when I was like 14. And this is I used to take piano lessons, and my piano teacher would give me all these kinds of songs to learn. And this is the one I used to play. If I Ruled the World by Tony Bennett when I was 14. And I even have my name printed written in here so I couldn't lose it. So we'll give it a whirl. The only thing is I have to turn the page in the middle of the song, but that'll be all right. So I'm going to try to draw birds up here. Now, is that it like that? That's enough. Okay. All right. Let me try this. If I Ruled the World. It came from, like, it says here, it came from Pickwick or something. Does anybody sort of remember this song? If I ruled the world, every day would be the first day of spring. Every heart would have a new song to sing, and we'd sing of the joy every morning could bring. If I ruled the world, every man would say would be as free as a bird. Every voice would be a voice to be heard. Take my word, we would treasure each day that occurred. And my world would be a beautiful place where we could weave such wonderful dreams. And my world would wear a smile on its face like the man in the moon has when the moon beams. If I ruled the world, every man would say the world was his friend. there'd be happiness that no man could end. No, my friend, not if I ruled the world. Every head would be held high. There'd be sunshine in everyone's sky. If the day ever dawned when I ruled the world. All right, so I'm going to play a song I wrote. A few years ago, they had a restaurant in Great Barrington, the Gypsy Joint. Oh, yeah. So everybody went there, right? But on the bar, Jordan had an old cowboy boot and a beat-up old galvanized bucket for tips. Cowboy, or a boot and a bucket. So I said, Jordan, there's some kind of a song in that boot and that bucket, right? So I went home and I wrote 3 verses, but it needed something else. So I came home one night and turned the news on, and they're talking about this organization called 969. So that's a real thing. 969, yep. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but boot or the bucket. Boot or the bucket, that's what's worrying me. I am a mighty all the working family. Holy among us, all the ones just trying to be. Boot or the bucket, that's what's worrying me. Rich and the famous, all the ones that can only hope. Ones that are hanging, all the ones that are holding the rope. Your way on the highway, there's no more middle road. Boot or the bucket, yeah, that's what's worrying me. Sword to sword, steel to steel. Sword to sword, steel to steel. Sword to sword, this is not our fate. Give up that hate. 969 or 666. SOS from behind enemy lines. Refugees and deportees marching in a flag. Slaughter and mayhem, all in the name of God. Sword to sword, steel to steel. Sword to sword, steel to steel. Sword to sword, this is not our fate. Give up your head. Fracking, fracking, what a filthy word. Oil in the water and killing all the birds. Brotherhood of man, don't give up your ground. Not too late to take that hoary crown. Sword to sword, steel to steel. Sword to sword, steel to steel. Sword to sword, this is not our fate. Give up the head. Or the bucket, yes, was worrying me. I am a mighty all-working family. Only among us all the ones just trying to be. All the bucket, yes, what's worrying me. Thank you very much.